like to call the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting to order. It's Wednesday, May 8th, 5:32. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next item is approval of meeting minutes. April 1st, 2024 special meeting minutes.
Move to approve special meeting minutes of April 1st, 2024 for the Board of Finance.
I'll second.
Any discussion, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Item B, April 2nd.
Move to approve the minutes, the special meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2024 for the Board of Finance in East Lyme.
I'll second.
Anybody note any errors or omissions on those? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. This is April 4th, 2024.
Move to approve the special meeting minutes of April 4th, 2024 for the East Lyme Board of Finance.
I'll second.
Any errors or omissions? I have one, and I got two. On page 9, under motion 22, I'm referred to as Mr. Maxwell. And on page 10, motion 24, I'm showing making the motion twice. I only made that once. The second, I think the second time, the chair asked me to confirm that I still wanted to make the motion. Because there was some discussion between the time I made the motion and the second, so that was just my clarifying on those. Page 10, motion 24. It shows me making motion 24 twice. I only made it once because Mr. Cunningham spoke before it was seconded, and I think there was some confusion by the chair. Other than that, if any, give a vote on the April 4th minutes with those changes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. April 10th.
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 10th, 2024 for the East Lyme Board of Finance.
No, I wasn't there, so I can't second.
I'll
Right,
second.
right.
I'll second. If you got, let me call for any errors or omissions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Aye.
Abstain.
We'll have to.
That's a good question. I mean, it's a majority of the.
Everybody voted, you have a quorum.
Yeah, so the motion carries. April 29th, I don't know if we should table those. I know they were just recently. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Or?
I haven't, no.
No.
Okay, so we're going to table E and F until the next meeting. Delegations. Anyone from the public wish to address the Board of Finance this time? See, done. Go to our reports. A is the first selectmen's report.
Yes.
Hello?
You should go there.
Finally, battery's dying.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, good evening. So only a couple of things. You know, one of the last meetings, I think we spoke about maybe having a strategic planning or a capital committee to do more strategic planning and start thinking about the capital plan before we get right on top of the budget season. So that was one of the ideas that was suggested. So my last meeting with the town attorney, I ran the idea by them, and I said, what would be the best model for us to follow if we're going to do that? And there's really two ways we could go. We could create, a strategic planning or a capital planning committee by ordinance, but then that would give them some authority, depending on what we say in the ordinance. The other way is to just give them a charge and really be an ad hoc committee so that they would exist in an advisory capacity to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. So we have to think about that a little bit and see which would be best, but I do want to move forward and start thinking about, what would be a good complexion of the members who we should try to tap that are in the community that could help us out in doing some longer-term strategic planning. So I did have that discussion, and I'm going to discuss that with the Board of Selectmen, and we'll move forward and see what comes of it. The other thing, on Saturday, I attended the Friends of Oswegatchie Hills, their annual meeting. They invited me to it, and one of the things we received was a legislative update from Holly Cheeseman. And, there's some concerning legislation that's out there, that, much of it, what they call as-of-right legislation with respect to zoning laws and rules and who can build where and do what. And one of the things was, if you have a nursing home that goes out of business, it would give them as of right the ability to convert that to affordable housing. So I think we really have to start studying some of the, really be aware of what's getting passed and what isn't being passed, and really think longer term down the road, how will this type of legislation impact our town? How do we deal with it in a way that manages to still maintain the character of East Lyme, and at the same time accommodate the law as it evolves? So I really want to start focusing more on that and get advice on that as we move down the road. And again, this is an effort to plan for the future and understand how current legislation will impact us, 5 and 10 years down the road. So I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to track it. And as we see what comes out, what gets passed and what doesn't, where we end up, then we can start to strategize and say, well, what do we make of it, and how does it affect us? So that's those are really the two things that I thought that would be of interest to the board tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Did you get to touch a truck?
I did get to touch a truck. I did, and I had a nice time down there, and it was a nice event. And my hats off to you, Jerry. He did a wonderful job getting everything together, and it was a beautiful day for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. That's for Mr. Gervais, our Finance Director's report.
Alrighty. So before I begin my report, Mr. Cunningham mentioned the Capital Improvement Committee. At the last page of your packets is a quick little summary of what we're looking to do with the Capital Improvement Plan. So it's just a quick little summary just to keep everyone on the same page of where our objectives are, and just so we all know what the goal is. If anyone has anything they'd like to add to this, let me know and I'll add it. But just kind of a guiding document for what we're looking to do. In terms of the finances of things, I'm going to announce Terry Dipolina, our AP clerk, has explored greener pastures, and we have a new AP clerk. You may recognize her from the tax office. Denise is coming over from the tax office. She holds an associate's degree in accounting, so she's very qualified to work in the finance office, so we're happy to have her. She started this past Monday. We're still rolling out Munis implementation. That's our accounting system for July 1. We'll be training the department heads and other end users next month. We did this one. We are also rolling out a revised 401 and 457 plan. Currently, the 457 plan is fine, but the 401 plan, right now it's currently allowing for employer and employee contributions into that, and it's, we're just changing it up and cleaning things up going forward. So hopefully right around July 15th, we'll have a new 401 and 457 plan for our employees. There's no changes to the benefits. It's just a change to the structure of the actual plan itself, right? Hole in the wall. I don't know if it was reported at the last Board of Finance meeting, I can't remember, but hole in the wall had some damage suffered to it this weekend or last weekend? McCook's Point. One of the parks in downtown. McCook's house, wrong bathroom. But McCook's Point bathroom suffered some damage to the tune of about $7,000 now. So now that hit over the $5,000 threshold for our insurance company, we'll reach out to them and file a claim there. So I'm trying to think what else I have here. I think that's it. We're just getting ready for year end, working on our audits, working on municipal implementation. There's a lot going on over there in the finance office. So I hope next meeting, I was just on the phone with Denise yesterday about the fiscal 22 audit. We're working right now on the final 3 request items to send that to finalization for technical review. We hope to have that turnaround in about 2 weeks' time. So by the next regular meeting, I hope to have a fiscal 22 financial statement in front of you. And then 3 to 4 months after that, 23. So we have a tight turnaround for 23, but I think while we were preparing for 22, we were also prepping 23 at the same time. So I think it'll be a much smoother audit for 23. So with that, any questions?
Yes, with the 401 and 457 plans, are town employees still on a traditional pension, or are we making efforts to switch off of pension plans and onto 401 type plans?
So it's non-affiliateds are in non-affiliated, non-union employees are in the defined contribution plan. The firefighters have been transitioned to the defined contribution plan, except with there's one firefighter who's grandfathered into the pension plan. The police are still in the pension, which is the defined benefit plan. Dispatch is still in the defined benefit plan. Those contracts come up in a couple of years. They were just negotiated within the last year or two. So the last contract that's still up for negotiation that we're in discussions right now is the fire contract. So we're in discussions right now with that.
Oh, okay.
So, and they're already in the defined contribution plan. So, that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, more or less.
So it's
I'm
it's
just
about
wondering-
50-50 full-timers.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends on the union, the collective bargaining agreement, whether they're in the defined contribution or defined benefit.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thanks.
any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Moving on to new business, and under item A, special appropriations from the CNRE, Parks and Recreation Equipment.
Good evening, Jerry Locken, the Parks and Rec Director. And I just wanted to confirm that the memo you have in your packets there has the amount of $7,996.48. Does that match? Okay. All right. So what we've done is we had some excess Parks and Rec equipment that we sold on a public auction website, and we're proposing to use the funds that were that came from the sale of that excess equipment to purchase new equipment that's necessary for the operation of the department. So in simple terms, that's what we're asking for. The Board of Selectmen obviously voted in favor of doing that, and we think it makes a lot of sense, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions? Questions? Would somebody like to make a motion? Motion on
Yeah, I move that we accept the Park and Rec Department's request to purchase new equipment with money obtained from selling old equipment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Item B, special appropriation, $157,000 Eversource reimbursement.
Jerry, have a good night. All right, so I can speak a little bit to this since our Public Works Director is on vacation this week. A couple years ago, I had it written down here. Eversource was paving 3 roads, Society Road, Riverview, and Roxbury. They were putting a trench in. And as part of that process, the engineering department required them to get a right-of-way permit. Well, in negotiations with them, instead of having them patch the road and have all those clumps and, potholes and everything else that happens when you just put a little patch in the road, the Public Works and Engineering Department made a deal with Eversource to relieve them, where's the line here? Release them of responsibility in exchange for a payment in lieu of restoration, since we were already going to repave these roads in a couple of years. So we received this money. I believe we received this in 2022. So we had the money sitting on our balance sheet as an unearned, a deferred revenue account. We are now moving that, dropping it down from the balance sheet into our P&L so we can pave those roads. So that's just a reimbursement to the road reconstruction account in the general fund.
Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $157,000 to the fiscal year 23-24 Highway Road Reconstruction Account 01-30-317-200-224 to offset utility pavement restoration costs and forward to the Board of Finance for approval. Note this requires a town meeting.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, item C, special appropriation, Animal Control Officer donation appropriation. Yeah.
There you go. All right, so the East Lyme and Waterford Animal Control, they receive donations of funds from general public and citizens for needed equipment. And the Animal Control Officer, they participate in what they call high-risk endeavors. They're going to maybe someone's house to deal with a dog, and so they need to have special equipment, amongst which is bulletproof vests and other equipment. And so these funds will assist in providing that specialized equipment to the individuals that are the animal control officers. So that's the amount for $6,431 from the animal control donation expense account to allow them to pay for capital uniforms. The invoice is outlined. I think you have the list of the items that it's going to pay for. Does that make that clear?
So none of this money is coming from the operating budget of East Lyme.
It was in a fund from donations from general public and individuals, and we have it. Where do we have it, Kevin? Is it in the general fund right now, or do we have a separate? I'm sorry.
So the $6,431 is the last 3 years of donations that have came in to the animal control officers, to this little, fund, shall you say. So really, they're looking to spend just over $3,000, but since we have the grant fund now, okay, so what we're looking to do is appropriate the money that they have available today right? $6,400, and then every year we will come before the board and ask for an additional appropriation of whatever money they've received if they need to buy something, right? So really, right now they're spending. I think it was $3,300. I don't see the invoice here.
You know what I have?
I think it was in your attachments, the capital
Yeah, it was.
uniform. So there's probably about $3,000 left. But instead of coming before the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, every time they want to spend money, once a year, and we got an opinion from the town attorney on this, if we come before the board once a year for the appropriation of the entire amount, so we know they're going to spend $3,400 or whatever it was on the body armor. They have $3,000 to spend on other supplies within their realm. So that's kind of the thought process on some of these, sources of funding.
So they won't have to come back for that other 3,000
Until next year.
until next year. Yeah.
Right. So every year, this will be a recurring theme
Right.
every year.
That's the beauty of the grant fund.
Yeah, exactly.
With a motion?
Move to appropriate $6,431.46 to Animal Control Donation Expense Account 28-01-000-000-010.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out how sad it is that they need bulletproof vests. Yeah.
Just a question, Paul.
Yes.
The action that was forwarded was to move to appropriate $6,431.46 to an account, but within this motion, there's not really any definition of where that money is being moved from.
So the donations in the past, since we didn't have the grant fund, were in the general fund balance. So this money is literally coming out of fund balance of the general fund. Because we didn't have a grant fund for all those years, if there was, donations like this, it went on the balance, it went on the revenue line, and then in some instances it went on the balance sheet as like a prepaid expense or a deferred revenue, things like that, like the EverSource. But in this instance, it came in as revenue, so it sat in the general fund as revenue. So really now we're appropriating this out of the general fund, right? Because it was put in the general fund for a purpose, right, for animal control donations. But there was no balance sheet to kind of have this accumulate like there is now with the grant fund, right? So we're going to take it, whatever money we've built in the last couple of years in the grant and the fund balance of the general fund for this, $6,431. We're going to move that from the general fund into the grant fund.
Okay.
So is that kind of there was, I guess I could have written pulled from fund balance, but
Your motion just say from fund balance?
yeah.
Yes,
That's-
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion that's on the table to state that the appropriations from the general fund balance.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Okay, item D. Special appropriation, $15,000 grant from Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut.
I've never been so happy to have a grant fund, can I just say? So here we are with another grant. Mrs. Perch, the curator for the Brookside Farm Museum, was awarded a grant in the tune of $15,000 from the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut. And it's to be used to establish a homegrown national park. This is a call to action to regenerate biodiversity in our community. The Brookside property will serve as a host site and offer biodiversity training, book clubs, discussion groups, and more importantly, it'll turn about 40 acres into a diverse ecosystem that is a visual and cultural improvement to the area. So I think it's more of like a, so when you go to that farm, the goal is you're stepping back in time. All the fauna and all the shrubbery and everything will be, what's the word, like period specific, right? Or whatever you want to, so. It's to kind of, revamp that property. So I think this is one grant of many. So
So I'm familiar with the mechanics now of the grant fund. Do we have to move on this, or there's no motion?
Motion to approve the grant.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
To move it from somewhere, or we just approve the grant?
So this isn't anywhere, so this is just to approve the grant,
Okay.
to accept the grant.
Is there any estimate of how much it's going to cost the town once the grant runs out?
So I can't really speak too much of that, but I just know, dealing with Jerry Locken at Park and Rec, right now they kind of maintain as a request basis. Like the Brookside Farm doesn't appear to be in the schedule. It kind of gets maintenance and some landscaping and trimming when there's a request for it. So I don't know how much of an impact this will be on future operating budgets. But in discussions with the town attorney, it was identified that this was going to have an potential impact in future budgets. That's why it's before you tonight. Because if it didn't have an impact in future budgets, the Board of Selectmen, with the charter revision, there's two avenues for grants, right? There's the express approval process that just the Board of Selectmen approve. That is for grants that don't have a fiscal impact in the future to the town. And then the second process, the normal process that was before that charter revision, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting for large dollar amounts. That's where this has to go through, just because of the potential for an impact. We're clearing up this area; it's going to have to be maintained in the future. So we don't have a dollar amount on what it's going to maintain. Cost to maintain it, but she's relying on volunteers to help start this project. So I think once they get it off the ground, I think she's going to rely on those volunteers to maintain it going forward.
So do we have
Is
to,
that-
do we have to,
That sounds pretty
does this need to be approved and sent to a town meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Okay. Move to approve a special appropriation of $15,000 grant from Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut to the Brookside Farm Museum.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Can I ask another question? Is there any time limit on the grant? Like if they leave a little bit for future upkeep, is that possible?
This grant has to be used by September 1st, 2029. So it has a 5-year, 4.5-year, 5.5-year life expectancy on the grant.
Okay.
Quite a bit of time.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item is public discussion. Since we don't have any public, we won't be discussing. Any board comments this evening?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ski.
One, I'd like to express my thanks to all the members of this board and the Board of Selectmen and our finance director for steering us through a very smooth and easy budget season. Not easy in that we had to make some difficult decisions, but the process went very smoothly. Two other things I'd like to mention. I don't know that we ever received any kind of response as to whether boardwalk maintenance is occurring as was stipulated in the ARPA grant. We heard from Parks and Rec that it would probably go over to Public Works then for that maintenance, but we never heard anybody picking up the tab on that, so to speak. The other thing is, I remember a few years ago, we used to have, I'll call it a beach cam for choice of words, that on our website for the town, we used to have a camera that would kind of show along the boardwalk and the shore, and I know a lot of communities have this as a way to induce tourism. There were people in town who liked to look at that, and I think when the systems kind of went down and then came back up again, the feeds all are going into dispatch, and I don't know that we have any feed of any potential tourism sites from our public cameras, and just be interested to see that followed. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the meeting's adjourned.